The first thing Jake Callahan felt wasn't waking up. It was suffocation, not just on his chest, but a crushing, heavy pressure everywhere, like the earth itself hugged him tight, wanting him gone forever. Gritty, dirty soil filled his mouth. It tasted like metal and rot. It pushed up his nose, scraped against his squeezed shut eyes. Sharp, cold panic cut through the fog in his mind. He wasn't asleep. He was buried alive. Memory hit him like broken glass. Silas Thorne's cold smile, the fake handshake of a Jake showed him the fake safety reports, the sharp sting of a needle in his neck, right in Thorne's fancy office. Then, nothing, until now. Cold, wet soil moved as Jake fought. He kicked and clawed against 6 feet of Pennsylvania dirt. His fingernails tore raw against rough wood, just above his face. A coffin. No, too cheap, too flimsy, just pine boards nailed together. Thorne didn't even buy a real box. Rage burned under the terror. With one last, animal scream, Jake exploded through the weak wood and the damp, stinking dirt. He sucked in foul air. He coughed hard, spitting out dirt that tasted like rust, acid, and death. He lay in a shallow, muddy hole on the poison edge of Blackwater, Pennsylvania, once a proud steel town, now just rotting bones picked clean by Silas Thorne and his company, Titan Forge Industries. Above him, the sky wasn't sky. It was a deep purple and sick orange bruise, stained by the Titan Forge mill's endless smoke. The air felt thick, greasy, sticking to his skin and lungs like poison. The smell, sulfur, hot metal, and something rotten, was awful. Shaking, Jake stood up, dripping mud and something darker. His terror turned into a cold, hard anger that burned away the drug haze. Silas Thorne hadn't just fired him. Jake found the reports proving Titan Forge caused the Furnace 7 explosion. That blast burned 12 men alive, including Jake's little brother, Danny. Thorne framed Jake for stealing money, drugged him, and tried to wipe him out. Buried me like trash on the edge of his poisoned world. He stumbled towards the dead shape of Blackwater. Main Street was a canyon of sadness. Boarded up shops stared with empty eyes. The few people left moved slow, like they were very sick. Their faces looked empty, their skin pale and waxy. Jake had seen that look on Danny before he died. The creek that gave the town its name, Blackwater Creek, was thick and oily. It slid past broken buildings, a poison river cutting through the rot. It didn't babble, it gurgled, a low, wet sound under the mill's constant groan. It whispered things Jake couldn't understand, but felt deep inside. Jake ducked into the broken shell of the old town hall. It was once grand, now covered in spray paint and falling apart. He leaned on a damp wall, trying to breathe air that still tasted like gravel dirt. That's when he saw the first real horror. Not Thorne's guards, something from the town itself. At the edge of his sight, shapes flickered, not solid, like heat haze over the toxic creek. Especially as the bruised sky got darker, they shimmered, unclear, but they felt full of deep sadness and cold hate. Their faces were blurry holes, yet Jake felt them look at him. A wave of pain washed over him, stealing his breath. The Hollow Ones. The name came from the town's fear. Spirits of the poisoned land. The workers Thorne betrayed. The dead who couldn't speak. They were signs of a deeper sickness. Blackwater's hurt soul made real. Days blurred. Jake lived like a rat. He stole old bread from dumpsters. He drank rainwater from broken pipes. He always listened for the heavy boots and radio noise of Titan security, Thorne's private army. He saw the Hollow Ones getting braver. They gathered near the broken down school. Just being there made the old bricks groan and crumble. They drifted through the huge, dead mill. Their quiet passing sometimes brought ghost sounds, a hammer clanging, metal screaming, or a wet, choking cough from empty halls. The fear wasn't just the unknown, it was a heavy guilt, the weight of all Blackwater's pain pressing down, like the dirt that almost buried him. He saw Danny's face in every shimmering hole. One rainy night, the downpour mixing with the chemical mist into a stinging soup. Jake hid under rotting football bleachers. The wind screamed through rusted metal. Then, cutting through the noise, came a sound that froze his blood. Not the wind, not the creek. A single, pure, sad note from a trumpet. It echoed strangely, seeming to come from the rain itself, from the dead mill, from the poisoned ground. It was the blast of the brazen trumpet, calling not for heroes, but for something dark. A shape came from the rain and yellow fog, not armored, but wearing a dirty, ripped hazmat suit, the face shield reflecting the mill's orange glow. In gloved hands, they held an old, tarnished cavalry trumpet. Jake Callahan, a voice rasped through the suit. Metallic, empty, the dead man walks. Jake scrambled back, slipping in mud, heart pounding. Who are you? Thorne's new killer. The figure laughed, a harsh, static noise that hurt Jake's ears. Thorne sees only money. He's blind to the rot, blind to them. A gloved hand pointed towards the field's edge. Ghostly shapes shimmered in the rain. He thought he buried his sins with you. He buried a spark in dry grass. What do you want? Jake's voice was raw. The truth. The herald rasped. Proof, not just your frame job, the real poison. The one he pumps into the dirt, the water, the air you breathe, the one that made them. The figure pointed at the hollow ones. He keeps it locked away. Find it, show the world. Before Blackwater is only hollow ones. The herald threw something heavy at Jake's feet. Not a glove, but a tough, waterproof case holding a heavy-duty USB drive. The keys are in the lock. Time is short. Before Jake could speak, the figure melted back into the gloom. The sad trumpet sound came once more, fading into the rain, and the mill's hungry roar. The USB drive felt hot in Jake's pocket. The herald's demand for truth, delivered by a toxic ghost, echoed in his empty heart. The hollow ones were the shaking sign of Thorne's worst crime. He needed help. He thought of Dr. Lena Vance. She ran Blackwater small clinic until Titan Forge got her shut down, calling her a troublemaker. She treated Danny after the blast. She wrote down the strange breathing problems, the shakes the company doctors ignored. She lived above her closed clinic, a last spot of fight in the dying town. Getting to her meant moving through alleys thick with the hollow one's heavy presence. The air got colder, heavier. The water in the gutters sounded like whispers. He found the clinic's back door broken open. Fear stabbed him. Lena, he called, voice tight, grabbing a rusted pipe from the alley filth. A shape rushed from the dark waiting room. Not Lena, but a Titan security guard, face hidden, but on raise. Jake moved on pure fear. The fight was ugly, quiet except for grunts and sick thuds. Jake shoved the man into a fallen cabinet, then smashed the pipe down hard on his knee. The guard screamed, falling. As Jake stood over him, breathing hard, he saw war terror in the man's eyes, not from pain. From behind Jake, he spun. Lena stood in the office doorway, pale but okay, a scalpel shining in her hand. But it was what loomed behind her that stopped Jake's breath. The air seemed to boil. The hollow ones, darker than any he'd seen, were coming out of the water-stained wall. Their empty faces weren't looking at Lena or Jake. They stared at the hurt guard on the floor. Their cold felt like acid eating the air. The wall around them darkened and crumbled. They show up, Lena whispered, shaking but steady. When Titan security comes, when any of Thorne's dogs enter town, they remember, they hate. Jake understood. The hollow ones weren't just sad ghosts. They were the town's poisoned blood, mad at the living symbols of their pain. Thorne and his men. He pulled out the USB drive. I need into Titan Forge, the secure vault in the deep basement. The herald said the keys are in the lock. Lena stared at the drive, then at the hollow ones fading, as the guard moaned. The vault, level 3 deep basement. Biohazard containment alpha. Only Silas and that monster Briggs have the codes. But, keys in the lock. Her face went hard. Silas is crazy, doesn't trust computers. He keeps a real key hidden, thinks he's smart. She told him about a secret panel behind a huge painting of Thorne in his office. Jake, it's Death. Briggs, he likes hurting people. Death is breathing this air and doing nothing, Jake said, looking at the dark stains on the wall. They're waiting for someone to fight. Getting inside was a trip into a metal hell. The Titan Forge place was a fortress. Jake used his years of mill knowledge, sneaking through broken sections. He crawled through old steam tunnels crusted with burning slime that stank of rot. Dirty water gurgled under grates. He felt the hollow ones close by, a cold weight on his back. Sometimes, the shimmering shapes flickered at a tunnel turn, seeming to point him away from a guard's light. Other times, a loud clang, a drop tool, would cover his noise, or make a guard look away. Were they helping, or just drawn to his fear? He didn't know, but he used it. He reached the boss area, a showy place of shiny floors and big lights, looking over the wasteland. Thorne's huge office was empty. He found the stupid painting. Behind it, a hand scanner. Crap. He pressed his muddy, torn hand on it. Nothing. Think. Danny's voice laughed in his memory. Hacking Jake's school grades once. Thorne's vein probably uses his own face. Jake grabbed a photo from the desk. Thorne getting an award. He pressed Thorne's smug face to the scanner. A soft beep. A panel slid open. Inside lay one heavy, cold metal key. The deep basement was a clean nightmare. Harsh lights made sharp shadows on shiny floors. The air was filtered, but smelled sweet and chemical, burning Jake's nose and eyes. Big biohazard signs glowed on heavy doors. Level 3. Containment Alpha. The vault door was a huge block of steel. Jake pushed the key in. It turned with a heavy clunk. Air hissed. He shoved the huge door open. Inside wasn't money. It was rows of cold, shiny metal containers humming quietly, labeled with codes: TFX7, VX Sigma, Phantom 9, and banks of computers, lights blinking. Jake shoved a USB drive into a port. A bar flashed on a screen. Files poured onto the drive. Fake reports. Hidden emails about poison leaks. The real cause of Furnace 7 buried under lies. Then, the worst. Project Phantom. Thorn wasn't just hiding mistakes. Titan Forge was secretly making weapons from its pollution. Tests on animals, then on Blackwater people. Drugs causing fear and seeing things. Poisons causing the breathing problems and shakes Lena wrote about. The Hollow Ones weren't just ghosts. They were a terrible accident of Thorn's war on his town. They were the poison land remembering. A cold voice cut the humming quiet. Stubborn little bug, aren't you? Callahan. Silas Thorn stood in the vault door, Briggs beside him. Thorn looked perfect in a fine suit, untouched by the rot he made, but his eyes were icy mad. Briggs, huge in black gear, held a small machine gun aimed at Jake's chest. Should have known cheap wood wouldn't hold you. Should have used cement. You poisoned them. Silas. Jake spat, backing towards the computers. The download bar crawled. 95%. He felt it now, the heavy weight of the Hollow Ones outside. A wave of sadness and hate, so strong the clean air felt thick, electric. They know. Silas. Jake hissed. They remember. Danny, the Furnace 7 crew. The ones you tested on. They're here. Scary stories. Thorn sneered, but his eyes darted as the lights flickered and buzzed. Briggs, get the drive. Kill the thief. Make it hurt. Briggs raised the gun, a mean glint in his eye. Jake braced to jump. But before Briggs fired, the lights blew up in a shower of sparks and glass. Total, hungry blackness swallowed the vault. Not just dark, but a blackness that ate sound. And in it, things moved. These weren't the sad Hollow Ones. These were shapes of pure dark, sending out a deep, soul-freezing hate. They formed from the shadows between the poison tanks, changing, unclear, but feeling of endless cold and hunger. They were Project Phantom's dark kids, born from the pure evil in this clean tomb. Briggs screamed, a raw sound of animal fear, cut off fast. Wet tearing noises followed, the sick crunch of bone. A terrible crackle hissed like ice meeting meat. Thorn shrieked, high and scared. No, stop, I made you, I own you. Jake scrambled back, blind, guided only by the faint computer lights. He felt freezing cold wash over him, heard Thorn's screams turn into choked, wet sounds, then quiet. Only the wet tearing, and that awful, hungry crackling where Thorn and Briggs had been. The USB light blinked steady green. Done. Jake grabbed it, pulling it free. The heavy darkness pulled back like a wave. Weak emergency lights flickered, making long, ugly shadows. Silas Thorn and Marcus Briggs were gone, completely, only to spreading puddles of thick, dark goo stain the floor where they stood, steaming a little in the cold. The dark shapes were gone too, vanished into the shadows between tanks, or maybe into the rock below. The vault hummed. The cold files on the drive wouldn't tell the story. Jake stumbled out, the USB drive tight in his shaking, bloody hand. He ran, slipping on the wet floor, past the steaming puddles that were once men. He didn't look back. He burst out of a broken door into the Blackwater's poison twilight. Lena waited near the oily creek, her face scared in the gloom. Jake, what happened? The whole place. Lights out. Then, screams, awful sounds. He's gone. Lena, Jake gasped, holding up the drive. Thorn. Briggs, gone. The things in the vault, the things his poison made, took them. He told her about the shapes, the sounds, the stains. Lena stared at the drive, then at the thick, black creek. So, it's over. We have the proof. We can show everyone. Force them to clean up. Help these people. Jake looked back at the Titan Forge place. The smokestack still blew poison, but the heavy fear over Blackwater felt different, lighter, maybe, but tight with something new. He saw shimmering shapes, the old, sad Hollow Ones, gathering near the gate. They didn't look at Jake or Lena. They looked into the plant, towards the deep basement. They seemed thinner, almost see-through, fading a little, but they watched, waiting, not peaceful, on guard. "We have the proof, Lena," Jake said, his voice empty, like the creek's gurgle. "But what did we let loose down there?" Thorn didn't just make ghosts. He made something hungry, something that just ate. He looked at the small USB drive. "Is this the key to saving us, or just the first bite of something bigger?" From deep inside the dead Mill's bones, the sad, deep blast of the trumpet cut through the twilight again. Jake and Lena froze. The Herald was still out there, watching, and the dark shapes from the vault. Were they really trapped, or were they just learning the world above, smelling the fear and badness that soaked Blackwater? The evidence was safe, a digital knife for Titan Forge, but winning felt like cold ashes and blood in Jake's mouth. The real horror wasn't just what Thorn did, but what he set free. The trumpet wasn't calling for justice. It was a cold song for what came next. The Hollow Ones watched the mill, quiet guards of a horror, now loose in Blackwater's bones. What new, terrible shape would it take when it came out again? The USB drive in his sweaty hand felt cold, too cold.